Jonathan arrives at a new school to complete his final year before applying to Harvard. He pushes his luggage down the hallway and enters his assigned dorm room. Inside, another boy, Skip, is open and welcoming and helps him with his bags. From the very beginning, Skip reveals a fun and outgoing personality that fills the room. They sit down and exchange a few words about Jonathan's life, but Skip glances at the clock and comments that it's getting late, leaving a sense of urgency in the air. Suddenly, Skip takes off his bathrobe. Underneath, he's wearing a red set of women's lingerie. Jonathan watches him, perplexed, while Skip murmurs that he bought it at a luxury store. Noticing the confusion, Skip explains that every year the seniors parade around campus so the freshmen can make fun of them, a tradition for the upperclassmen. Then he looks in the drawer for another set that, he says, a girl left behind, and tosses it to Jonathan. Shortly after, Skip urges him to go down the stairs and leave the dorms. Jonathan takes the first step into the hallway, but Skip stays inside and closes the front door, preventing him from coming back in. Outside, all eyes are on him and laughter erupts. There is no parade. With no other option, Jonathan looks for a way out and decides to climb the wall to reach the dorm window, his heart pounding with urgency. As he climbs, he hears the students' laughter. Upstairs, he sees Skip leaning out the window, amused, waiting for him with a conspiratorial look. He tells him it was a joke and that it's tradition to do this to newcomers. He adds that they'll be spending a lot of time together and that they should be friends. Jonathan nods without smiling, holding back his anger. Later, the consequences of the prank multiply. Other students start to harass him in the hallways. The atmosphere explodes in the dining hall, right in front of the principal and the teachers. The boys openly mock Jonathan, pushing him into the center of the ridicule. Seeing this, Skip calls him over to sit by his side, trying to offer some support. Jonathan turns around with tears in his eyes. Skip's gaze hardens and his expression turns serious at the harm caused. After lunch, feeling guilty, Skip goes up to the dorm to talk to him, having no idea what he's about to see. When he opens the door, he freezes. Panic overtakes Skip, who runs down the hallway looking for the principal, feeling responsible. He returns with the principal and other students, his heart in his throat. Then he sees it. It's not Jonathan. It's a mannequin dressed in women's underwear. The scene falls apart before their eyes, and the principal, keeping his composure, orders Skip to report to his office the next morning. The prank comes back to its author and leaves the atmosphere tense. When the room is empty, Skip opens the closet and finds Jonathan, alive, laughing harder than ever. Jonathan repeats the same words that Skip said to him on the first day, switching roles with precision. The tension eases, and Skip can't help but laugh. The next day, they decide to go out together. They go to a store to buy a bottle of alcohol, even though they're underage. Skip slips a large bill to the clerk, who accepts it without question and hands them the bottle. The thrill of breaking the rules brings them together. Back in the dorm room, they sip their drinks. The alcohol kicks in and loosens their tongues. Skip confides a secret to Jonathan, and Jonathan replies that the worst thing he's ever done was buying the entrance exam. Their honesty opens a floodgate between them. Shortly after, they sneak across campus and head to the girls' dorms, where they pick up two beautiful young women. The night holds promise, until the alcohol catches up with Jonathan and he throws up in the car, ruining the date in an instant. The next day, both of them join the dance committee. They go to the girls' campus to meet and decide on the details of the party. Ideas flow normally, lists and schedules, until one of the girls recognizes Jonathan. The atmosphere breaks and everything turns into a complete disaster, tainted by his recent reputation. Later, the principal announces that Jonathan is forbidden from attending the dance due to the incidents. The ban falls like a sentence. That night, Skip gives him money and insists that he go to a bar in the city to distract himself with some girl, pushing him to get away. At the bar, Jonathan tries to approach a girl who is watching him intently. As he leans over, he puts his foot on a chair and accidentally breaks it, getting stuck and making a fool of himself in front of everyone. He pulls himself together and another girl sits down next to him. She suggests a game with a coin. Jonathan, naive, agrees. The coin is chalked, and soon he has black marks all over his face while laughter builds around him. Fortunately, a woman named Ellen notices and comes over to help him clean up, containing the disaster just in time. With his dignity wounded, Jonathan decides he's had enough and leaves. He gets into a cab to disappear into the night. Then, Ellen joins him. They go to Ellen's hotel, go up to the rooftop, and talk with the cold on their skin. Does she mention that she finds him attractive? In the elevator, the distance between them shrinks, and they feel the urge to get to know each other more deeply, caught up in the same impulse. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Jonathan and Skip's friends start to worry. 2 days have passed without any sign of him, and the silence fuels the rumors. Faced with his prolonged absence, Skip decides to inform the principal. However, when he opens the door to the dorm room, he runs into Jonathan. The boy smiles and pulls a red thong out of his jacket, showing it off like a trophy, surprising everyone with his nighttime achievement. The next day, Jonathan walks across campus with much more confidence. His back straight, his stride confident. The following weekend, he returns to the city to see Ellen, even though he doesn't even know her name. After a night of fun, Ellen wakes up surrounded by flowers, with Jonathan asleep beside her. The gesture fills the room with fragrance. At the end of the weekend, they walk near the lake. The water soothes their steps. Jonathan confesses to Ellen that he loves her. She doesn't feel the same way. She says she doesn't even know his name or where he's from. Jonathan clarifies that he doesn't mean to sound in love, just that he really likes her. Ellen takes a breath and tells him that next weekend she'll go wherever he is. They both agree to spend 2 days in New York, with the city waiting for them. When they meet again, they walk like two lovers through the streets of the Big Apple. They go into a clothing store. Ellen asks for a jacket for Jonathan and insists he needs a new one. She also asks for a pair of pants. He goes to the fitting room, tries them on and looks at himself in the mirror. Then, Jonathan's wallet falls to the floor. Ellen picks it up. She opens it. She sees his school ID. She discovers that he is underage and still in high school. Without thinking, she runs out and leaves Jonathan alone, abruptly cutting the thread that connected them. She experiences her escape as an emptiness. Jonathan falls into a silent depression. He doesn't want to get out of bed and starts getting low grades, something that had never happened to him before. The days drag on. Classes feel heavy. Months later, at Christmas, Skip invites him to spend a few days at his house. They arrive at a large mansion surrounded by hundreds of acres. In the room, Skip offers him a cigarette and says they'll need it to get through dinner, hinting at a tense family dynamic. The anticipation grows darker. Before dinner, Skip and Jonathan talk with Skip's father. The man comes across as arrogant and very conservative in political matters, inflexible in both tone and stance. At that moment, Skip's mother arrives and greets her son with a warm hug. Jonathan smiles out of politeness, but as soon as she turns away, his smile falls apart. It's Ellen. She quickly excuses herself and retreats to her room, her breath short. She can barely process that the boy she had an affair with is her son's best friend, and the weight of the coincidence crushes her. During dinner, Ellen drinks glass after glass of wine. Her husband comments on the amount, carefully choosing his words. With every sip, she tries to bear the weight of her lies, but only sinks deeper into guilt. When they're alone, he reminds her that, even though he doesn't care about her private life, in public she must behave like a lady. The next day, they go horseback riding on the grounds. In the middle of the ride, Ellen asks Jonathan to leave her house. She can't stay near him for another minute without breaking down. Sometime later, Jonathan is in his dorm room with friends when he's told there's a call for him. He picks up the receiver, not knowing what to expect. It's Ellen. She asks to meet, but Jonathan refuses, hurt by what happened. Ellen insists and starts calling him every day. Perseverance is the only way. Persistence wins out, and Jonathan agrees to meet with her. Shortly after, they meet. He expresses his feelings honestly, and Ellen replies that she felt sorry for him when she saw him at the bar, that he seemed completely pathetic to her, opening a wound that's hard to heal. The woman calls room service and orders a bottle of vodka. Jonathan asks her if she thinks that will help her. Ellen says yes, with the confidence of habit. He asks her not to call him again. She agrees. However, when they get up, Jonathan hugs her. The distance is broken again, and they become intimate once more. Meanwhile, Skip arrives at the place with his friends and some girls. They knock on the door saying they're from room service, unaware of the scene behind the threshold. Jonathan opens the door, convinced that the bottle has arrived. Then, everything falls apart. Skip comes in with the group and they find Ellen in bed. The room freezes. Jonathan is exposed, and the disappointment on his face is clear, not just because of her, but also because his best friend barged in at that moment. Skip doesn't say a word. He turns around and leaves. He gets in his car and speeds away, the sound of the engine his only response. Jonathan runs after him, unable to catch up with the fleeing past. Trust wavers. Back in the bedroom, Jonathan apologizes to his best friend. Skip keeps a neutral expression and says not to worry, that after all, it was just a girl. Jonathan sighs, relieved by the apparent calm. However, the peace is only an appearance. During the hockey game, Skip explodes with unusual violence and loses control, making it clear that inside he is very upset about everything that happened. Shortly after, Skip's father arrives at the dorm room. Jonathan assumes he's there to confront him for getting involved with his wife, but the man only wants to talk to Skip. He tells him that Ellen has voluntarily checked herself into a mental health facility because she needs help. The news lands with surgical coldness. Skip is not surprised. He replies that if his mother thinks she needs help, it's best that she gets it. The emotional distance between them feels familiar, and the burden is shifted to a place where no one wants to look. A couple of days later, the tension between Skip and Jonathan finally explodes. They exchange long and harsh reproaches. Jonathan reminds him that he didn't know Ellen was his mother the first time. Skip reproaches him for seeking her out again, knowing who she was. The argument escalates until it breaks. They end up fighting in the woods, fall into a stream, get dirty, and shout that they hate each other. The violence brings out what they had kept silent, and the cold water doesn't extinguish the resentment, it only makes it more tense. Skip insists that he'll finish him, firm and wounded. Jonathan tries to escape, breathing heavily, and runs back to the dormitory. He enters and locks the door from the inside, looking for a barrier. But Skip has already slipped in through the window, determined to settle the score. The fight breaks out in the room, violent and clumsy, blows that miss and old resentments that finally spill out. Eventually, dirty and wounded, they sit down next to the bed. They look at each other without saying another word, and after the clash become friends again, like two castaways accepting the same shore. The storm leaves a lesson in plain sight. Jonathan discovers that adulthood doesn't begin with freedom, but with the responsibility for our actions.